Hey there YouTube, welcome back to another black powder update. I finished my next unit and I'll be showing you those in a second. And then I did actually, this is actually a second take of this video. I decided to redo it because the first take of this particular part, my hair looked like I'd run through brambles. And secondly, I decided to do an update on the end of it, and it was making it into a 24-minute video. So I thought I would reshoot it, and I'll actually do two videos. I'll do a video on my unit I've just completed, and then I'll do a smaller little update video after that. So here I am in my painting room as usual, and my cat is, I don't know if you can see her, she is asleep in her box, fast asleep. And she's decided to take residence on my spare shelf here. So I had to basically move all my miniatures, all my unpainted miniatures, because I tend to keep those on here. And I actually had my cavalry over here, and I had to move those away. So they're actually in a box over there behind me. And of course up here I did have my Marines here. But she decided to jump up there yesterday and cause chaos. She knocked like 6 stands off and had to glue them all back onto their bases. It was a little bit of a pain. Luckily there was no damage done. So they are now, my Marines are now well behind in my middle guard here. And I tend to put a box across here when I go to bed, just to deter her from jumping up there. Because she has got a habit of jumping into, if she can spot a space, she'll decide to jump up into it. And she tends to sleep somewhere for a couple of weeks and then move positions, so hopefully she won't be here for too long before she decides to move on. But she is literally fast asleep at the moment. Very cute looking. Oh. Anyway. Without further ado, let's go down to the workbench and I will show you what I've spent the last 9 days doing. Catch you in a second. If I can find the off button, that is. Hey there YouTube, welcome back to the workbench, and before you can see my pride and joy, because I've got to say I'm pretty proud of these guys. I mean, you could say, well, you know, it's just a British Infantry unit, there's nothing super special about them. But these guys have got two things that are particularly special about them. The first is, this is the first unit that I've got a mounted colonel in, or in this case a mounted major. And also, they're a 36-man unit. It's the first time I've actually ever done one. And I've got to say, I'm glad that I don't use 36-man units as standard, because these guys were hard going. So let's give you the blurb on these guys. You can probably guess what they are, and I have spoken to them about them before. These guys, of course, are the Coldstream Guards, and if you look at their blurb, they are from the 2nd Brigade of the 1st British Infantry Division, and 2nd Coldstream Guards, commanded by Major A.G. Woodford. Is it Woodford or Woodford? Either not. I have to go back and check to be sure, but I think it could be Woodford. Actually, is one word. And there is their strength. So they're 1,098 man strong. So you can see why having a 36-man unit was a good idea for these guys. I have also a 2nd battalion of 36 man. Or 36 men to do as well, and they are one of the guard regiments, the 2nd, 3rd Foot Guards, I believe. They are also over 1,000 man strong, so they will also be a 36-man unit. So I have one more to do. So let's give you a close look at these boys. We'll start off with the Grenadier Company. Now, while I was doing these guys, I came across some information which said that the now I'm not sure if this is right the way across all British units, or particularly for the Guards, but basically these guys have a red and white plume on their shakos, and I read that the Grenadiers and the Light Company use different colour plumes to denote what they are. So this unit here is the Grenadier Company, and they had white plumes on their shakos. So here's the first unit, and you can see that in the end I decided to go for 60 by 60 bases rather than the cavalry bases I was originally going to use, so about 50 by 50s. And this was suggested to me by a commenter, Newbie Porker. I think that's practically what he's called. He's probably got something on the end of that. Who is an Australian chap, and he recommended that I go for 60 by 60, and I thought that was a really good idea because it actually keeps up the same frontage as the 40 by 40s of a 4-man, so it kind of makes sense that if you have 6 men, then make it 60 by 60. And yeah, so I was really happy with the way the decision to use this size base. I've got the Sergeant, the Elite Miniature Sergeant, chucked in on this base as a little bit of difference. I think he fits in quite well. Now I did have to make do with a couple of guys that haven't got birds' nests. So the Sergeant and the guy next to him, this guy here, have just got the illusion of birds' nests rather than actually having birds' nests, because you only get 8 bird-nested figures, or the flank companies. But yeah, very happy with that particular base. And the main difference between this guy and the front rank is that his pole arm is just a little bit thinner, but it doesn't make too much difference. And other than that, I think this sergeant guy fits in perfectly with him, to tell the truth. So that is the Grenadiers stand, and all these guys are elite on this particular base. Then we have the rear centre section, which of course is made up of all centre company. So we just have the normal chaps. Now these guys, of course, Elite Miniatures, I actually really like them. I think these guys, when you sort of look at them in their bare metal form, you kind of think, well, these guys are a bit goofy looking. But as soon as you get paint on them, they really come to life, and I really did enjoy painting them. There's only like 2 poses, I think, and they're still pretty close to each other. I think the main difference between the two is the slightly different position of the arms and a slightly different positioned head. Other than that, they're more or less exactly the same. These guys did have a little bit more flash than what I'm used to on Elite Miniatures. They had, like, you can see that little hole underneath his arm there. A lot of time that was filled up with flash, and it was the same for the legs as well. In between the legs, that had a lot of those guys had flash filling that in. But they're still pretty clean. I mean, they didn't have anything on their bayonets, they didn't have anything on their packs or on their ammo cases, so still pretty clean. So that is the rear middle section. The light section, of course, is another one that's got a different coloured plume. The light section has a green plume, so you can see here. And on this particular unit, I decided to use one of the Elite Miniatures officers. Here's my second one. And you can see that I converted in the loosest of senses. I basically just cut his hand off and stuck a sword hand on there to make him look a little bit more battle ready, rather than looking like he's about to join the opera. I kind of got into the sense of calling Elite Miniatures officers the opera boys, because they all, basically, if you put them all together, they look like some sort of tenor group, all singing opera and stuff. But yeah, so I was really happy with the way that this officer turned out in the end, and I decided to put him on my light company. Again, as something a little bit special, because they're like a 36-man unit. I suppose the only bad thing about doing things like this is that I'm either going to have to put extra expense into trying to match the same style of units by getting extra officers and stuff, and an extra mounted colonel, because my next 36 manner is going to be front rank, and of course they don't come with mounted officers, so I might possibly pick up a mounted officer for those guys too, but we'll see how it goes. Next up, we'll go for the NCO stand. Again, this is just made up of normal guys, apart from a front rank sergeant here. I really like this guy's position. He fits in really well, and you can see that these guys fit perfectly well in with front rank guys. Like I say, the only real difference you could probably tell is the fact that his pike is a lot thicker. But other than that, you can't really tell at all. Again, 5 normal centre company guys with him. I was really happy with the way these guys turned out, I've got to say. Now, I did read also that a lot of these guys sometimes carried black bread bags at the back here. Well, not bread bags, but mealie bags, or whatever you call them. Satchels, I suppose, satchels. But I'd already done a lot of these guys in white, so in the end I just did the sergeant with a black one there, which I think kind of looks pretty cool, actually, to tell the truth. So that is the NCO stand, and I always have my NCO stand to the, if you look at them from the front, so the NCO stand's always on this side, and I always have my drummer on this side. Speaking of which, we'll go in to the drummer's base next. Again, this drummer is Elite Miniatures. I decided to use the Elite Miniatures one because of his unique position. I really do like him, actually. I think he's quite a good drummer. You can see that I've done the intricacies of his lacing with the little blue. They're actually sort of like, almost like, I can't remember what the actual motif is, but they kind of got little motifs on running along the piping, and I've just done little blue dots to signify that, and it seems to work quite well. But of course, 5 other normal troops, and the blue that I used for these guys is this classic dark sea blue by Vallejo. This stuff is, I've been using this a lot lately. I used it for like French artillery, I used it for some of the guard units, I used it for the Marines, and I used it for, I'm going to be using it for the blue of the guards units too, because it's really nice dark blue that's different from sort of like the dark French blue that I've got in the from the Foundry paints. Here, the original French blue A, which of course is dark shade. But I mean, you can kind of, I'm not sure if you can actually see it on the camera, but this is like a much, it's dark, but it's also kind of subtle at the same time, which I think is why it's so good for doing very, very dark blue uniforms. So yeah, let's go on to the final stand now. Always my favourite, and particularly my favourite in this case, because I think it came out so well. We have the command base. So here we have the flags, GMB, and I've got to say they look great. We have two Elite Miniatures on here. So the Colonel is Elite Miniatures, and the unit colours, regimental colours, guy is also Elite. Everyone else is front rank. We have this guy here, this banner bearer, the King's colours, and also the officer here. Mounted officer, turned out great, I think. Of course, he's actually a major rather than a colonel, but still looking good. I managed to get the extra guy on the back. I do actually quite like the flag bearer that came from Elite 2. Quite nice. So yeah, I'm really happy with how these guys turned out overall. And that is the end of this particular video. So I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed doing these guys. It took me a long time to do. I was trying to think of exactly how long they took me, and they took me like 9 days of doing between 6 to 8 hours of painting in a day. Now obviously that's not all painting within that time, because obviously you're not painting 100% of the time. A lot of the time my cat would come and sit right in the middle of my painting area, so that would slow me down or stop me. She also has the habit of sitting in my paint palette, which always I try and avoid it at the utmost, because when she sits in it, obviously gets in her fur and over her paws, and then she tramples it everywhere, which is chaos in its own right. But I'd probably say that if I was to have a guess, these guys were taking me around about between an hour and a half to 2 hours a figure, which is quite slow even for me. Particularly when you think of sort of how easy a British infantryman really should be to paint. But yeah, so I've obviously I've put my heart into these guys, and I'm very, very proud of them. So that's the end of this video. I should be back with another one, doing a little bit of an update video. Give you a look at some of the goodies I've got in, and a few little odd bits too. So until next time, catch you all later. Bye bye.